Imagine it's the 1870s. The war in the States is still a very real and disturbing memory. Wyatt Earp is in Dodge, bending his pistol barrel over the heads of drunken Texans. And you're from the Midwest, possibly. Ohio or Indiana, Michigan. You could be from farther east. Even the old country in Europe. But you're a pioneer. And you come to this spot of tall grass. And if you would lift up your eyes and behold, you would see a small bustling town. At this very spot, this town had quite a few amenities. There's a one-room schoolhouse half-mile away, a couple churches, general merchandise store, post office, kind of a Sam Drucker affair. Restaurants, banks, land office, newspaper office, whose editor was a very, let's say, outspoken man. There was even a roller skating rink that doubled as a meeting hall. Now, it didn't officially become a town until the mid-1880s. And they gave away, actually, lots to businesses and homeowners to help it thrive. But unfortunately, a mere 10 years later, it was pretty much a ghost town. And the official government order to vacate the town was given, and it was reverted back to farmland. And the trees ahead of me here are that last farm where the man stayed until the 1950s, and he farmed this area. So let's see what we can find. Well, I got the first relic I found. Looks like a small caliber fired bullet. Not great, but we'll keep looking. And I found the casing for the bullet. Or one like it. And it's rimfire. So it's old. I don't know if it's hard to see on the camera. I'll try to shade. But I'm seeing glass shining in the sun. There's one really bright one right in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to check this particular area really close. See if I can find anything good. There's what I was seeing. It's a nice pink glass. I don't know if this would be possible to see on camera, but I'm seeing a groove going straight away from me. I'm in the center of it, and that coincides on the map with how Main Street ran. I'm not 100%, but I don't know why else that would be there. Can you guess what it is? Another little pistol bullet. Well, I detected about a 20-foot swath all the way to the north line there, the center line of the section, which was the north boundary of the town. And I did not find anything all the way over to there to where I am. Not even nail signals. So most likely even though they had lots laid out, no one ever built that far north. So once I started getting in line with this tree row there, I started hitting nails over here. So I think from now on I'm going to stay to this side of those trees. I started seeing glass too, and I just dug a square nail. It sounded good to begin with, so I went ahead and thought I'd look at it. That's all it was. So I think from here south I'm going to concentrate and on east towards the trees there, and maybe cover this big square real good. Here I got a Coyote Track, but also just sitting here within reach, got all these different colors of glass. I would love to have any one of those intact. Got a pretty good signal here. Oh, and it's lead. Or melted something. Not heavy enough to be lead. Okay. First one of this dig. Surprised I hadn't found one beforehand. Pretty cool. Towers wire fastened. I suppose it's a button, but I'm not sure. Brass rivet. Yeehaw! Got a fancy little brass doodad. Probably off something leather, a saddle, or something like that. Don't know. Now I wanted to show you something that happens on a somewhat regular basis in this region. We just call it a mirage. I don't know what the technical name for it is. But you see the horizon out there? We normally wouldn't see that. We would just see those trees. But specifically in mornings of a certain, I don't know what it is, temperature difference between the ground and the air, or moisture in the air, or both. There you can see a wind farm. That's probably a good 30 miles away. Let me zoom in. Another town, you can see the elevator. That's a long ways away. There's no way we could see that on a normal day. But for whatever reason, a lot of mornings in the fall especially, it's like you're in the bottom of a bowl, and the horizon just rises up all the way around you, 360 degrees. So you can see trucks driving 40 miles away up on the rim. Pretty cool. What do you suppose that is? It's iron. It's got notches cut in it. The top is folded over, and there's a funny tab in the center. Like that would click over a rope or something. I don't know. I'll have to clean it up at home and get a better look at it. I got excited when I saw that, but then I saw that. Head stamp. Oh well. Still very old. this not have been a cool bottle? Purple. Oh well. So I was metal detecting out in the field, continuing on, and thought I'd look around in the trees. And I just turned this roof upside down. It's tinned. And under it, we've got, looks like, well, here's a flagstone, a limestone flagstone, and here's bricks. And it's very, very soft underneath. And where's that board? Right there. That to me looks like the homemade toilet seat. So I don't have a whole lot of time to continue this, but I'm just going to dig down a couple feet and see if I can find anything. Now, more than likely, this was still used up until the 50s when this farmer moved out, but we'll see. It could have been used for 50 years. Oh, this is crazy. I was sitting here digging where I think the outhouse was, and I saw this. And it says something Leonard, I think jeweler, optical. And I was peeling back more tin, you know, it's all rusty. But look at this. Got a clock. God. It says gifts. I don't know what that says. Something full. Big old pocket watch. That is cool. They could look up and read an advertisement when they're on the, well, you know. I'm gonna have to peel all that wood off of there, aren't I? Wow. Well, unfortunately, the pieces that I showed you are all that there is of that. Everything else is just plain old rusted tin. Doesn't look like there was ever paint on it. But that is still cool. We got a grandfather clock. Pocket watch. It says useful gifts. Not sure what this is. Can't quite make it out. So obviously it was part of something much larger, but hey, I'll still hang that up. I like it. Just found a tiny little penknife. Kind of cool. Well, I know over there I just dug half a dozen small copper rivets, and at least 3 of them were still in little bits of leather. So I kind of decided I was on the scene of where the stable was, the livery stable. I know one was on Main Street, according to newspaper ads. And I just came across this. First I thought it was a small point for driving into rock, but there's no point on it. It's perfectly flat on the end. So I'm wondering if that was for, you know, it's way too small to be a branding iron, but could that have been used for leather work or something? I don't know. Heat it up and burn into leather. I don't know. I'm gonna have to research that. And there's no hole on the end like there would have been a wooden handle. This is all there is. Kind of interesting. Well, that wasn't exciting at all. Oh my! I think it's a grommet. Where a hold down and leather straps would go through it and you'd tie it off. I don't know. It's got a little button. Shows up in the low 50s, like a nickel. But it's also got a grunt to it. Looks like there's rust in the back. But I don't see any design on it. This showed up as a 65. Man, I wish I could focus. I'll have to do a closer shot later. It says FITZ, F-I-T-Z, on each side and a star on each side. And yet another button. I found a piece of pocket knife. Just a mere scrap. A mere remnant. But it's got a little blade still folded up there, and then it's got the tabs where the wood or bone handle would have been attached. So that's cool. Got a deal here. It's a little bigger than a penny. It looks like it's probably brass. I'm not too sure. Got a little tab on one side, and it looks like there's some... I don't know if there's a design on there or not. There looks like some lines on that side. This side's got too much junk on it. I'll have to scrape it off. If I find out later, I'll certainly let you know. This is the only casing I have found that isn't smashed. I don't know how this one survived. Okay, well, here we are. It rained, it snowed. The temperature stayed below freezing for a week. And that ground is rock hard, so I cannot do any more digging there for the moment. But as soon as it thaws out a little bit, you can bet I'll be back out there. But I decided to show you what I have so far. Of course, here's a sign we'll start with. The useful gifts. Got pocket watch front and side. I'm pretty sure that's a fountain pen. Grandfather clock. Did a little research. I found advertisements from about 1890 through 1930s on this jewelry store. It wasn't at the town that I'm metal detecting at. Of course, that town didn't last that long. It only lasts about 10 years, officially. This was from a town a little distance away, but the farmer who lived where the trees are evidently got a hold of old tin and used it to roof his outhouse. I pulled this out of the barn that's falling down. I just kind of wanted to save it before I forgot about it. Obviously, a 2-horse rig, pull a wagon. I'll hang that up too somewhere. Let's start over here with the random iron. A lot of it is hand forged. That, who knows what that could have been. Pieces of things. A lot of stuff I may not keep. Wrought iron. Here we have, could have been something from much newer. Could have been that old. Looks like a blade off something. I don't know. This one intrigues me. It's got a notch on the end, but it's very thin. Comes to a point, or a sharp edge though. This, I'm guessing, was off horse tackle also for a carriage or a wagon. Like you would have hammered this onto the end of a post. You can see it's quite worn on the edge, so I'm guessing a iron hook. The only thing that could have worn it out that much is another piece of metal constantly rubbing. So, not sure exactly what it is. Here it looks like we have a ladle from for cooking outside, you know. Got a big old eye in it to hang it up on the hook. Center punch. Could be 100 years old, could be 10 years old. Although it's pretty bad if it's 10 years old. But you get my point. An old socket-style chisel, wood chisel. Now I found this at where the church a half mile from town sat. That is the only good relic I found there. Everything else was just nails. And I went over it pretty thoroughly. So I wanted to include it in this since it was part of this town. And since that was the only thing I found. It's just a open wheat field now. There's nothing else to see there. But I thought that was pretty cool. It probably was used building that church back then. Now this thing, I asked a friend of mine in town, who is a Civil War buff. He's a collector. He is a metal detector. He used to be anyway. He can't do it much anymore. But I took this to him, and he knew exactly what that is. He said, well, that's a horse picket pin, or what's left of it. So there would have been a ball on top of here, and a hook that went around here and could swivel all 360 degrees around this, and the ball kept it from coming off. Then this would have been almost twice as long, and it came to a point, so Cowboy could nail that into the ground and picket his horse out on the prairie. And they used them Civil War era too. He pulled out 2 samples he had in his cabinet, and one matched exactly. So, thought that was pretty cool. Horseshoe halves and whole horseshoe. Door latch plate. My number 2 son found this actually in the area where the general store and post office was. And, you know, that's not a keyhole there. I'm wondering if this is related to the post office. Not sure. Kind of a fancy plate. Buckles. This turned out to be a buckle. I'm wondering, does that look like what would have been used to cinch up the saddle strap underneath the horse belly? You know, it's an odd buckle otherwise. Square nails of all shapes and sizes. Various hardware, square nuts, wedge probably out of a hammer, homemade or hand-forged carriage bolt, U-bolt. Got a sample of the head stamps off shotgun shells here. Probably the oldest is this all brass casing. And there are various gauges and manufacturers. These are all rimfire cartridges, different calibers. These are all centerfire cartridges in various stages of decomposure, I guess. This one came out of the ground. That was one of the last things I dug. You saw. Still completely round. And still full of dirt, too. Here's some random relics. This is the very center of a kerosene lantern. Your little adjustment handle would have been out here. And those little star-shaped teeth adjust the wick in and out of the slot there. This looks to be like the end of a curtain rod, but this end is very heavy. You can see how thick it is. And on the inside are threads. So it still could be but it's very well made. I don't know if it could be anything else, a lamp part or lantern part, I don't know. This looks to be a pewter handle off a spoon or fork. This is a piece off a wooden bucket. The ends of the wire handle would get hooked in that hole, and this is screwed to the side of the bucket. This is a little clip, a little hanger. I don't know exactly for what. I don't know if I showed you the bullets already. Just different sizes and calibers. We found some more. This one's hit something hard. You can see the end of it still there. Well, let's see. I'll show you this. Just some of the glass I picked up, all the different colors, porcelain doorknob, the corners of square bottles, just interesting yellow glass. Here's that purple or pink cork top I found, blue, brown, some interesting pottery. Pocket knives, this complete one other than the bone or the wood falling off. There's a partial to a side with a little bit of the blade left on there. Pretty sure I found where the livery stable was, because I was just hitting these all over the place in one particular spot. All these rivets, and obviously they still had leather on a bunch of them. So that's pretty interesting. I'm going to get the light down here. Now, here's a couple buttons. And then this deal, not exactly sure. It's possible if it was off some kind of jewelry. More than likely it was on leather. I don't know exactly what. Pretty neat. Okay, here's an overall button. It says Right, KCMO, Kansas City, Missouri. I found ads for that as far as individual stores advertising this brand. Probably 1920s, something like that. This one says Kansas brand. Couldn't find too much information on that. It was probably a smaller company. This one says Fitz. Has a star on each side. There's Fitz on top and there's Fitz on bottom. Here's an ad from 1910. Fitz overalls are made by honest women in a modernly equipped and sanitary factory. That'd make me feel better knowing that. Here's this button, this Towers wire fasten button. And this is a copy of an ad from the newspaper of this town. Towers Fish Brand Slicker. It's a button off of the Cowboy Rain Slickers, the oilskin slicker. So I thought that was pretty cool. And last but not least, the one and only coin I found. It is very hard to see any detail on there, even with a magnifying glass. But it is a shield nickel. I can't get the year off of it. This, of course, is what it would have looked like new. This is what it looks like now. And if you can see the shape of the 5, here's the top of the 5. Of is right up off the point of the 5. There's of, OF. And you can see just barely make out the circle of stars around the 5. And then on top, you can see the stripes of the shield pretty plain there. So that's what it is. Obviously, I just don't know what the that little thing is. It hasn't been drilled through or anything, so I don't know if it's just through the natural electrolysis of the soil, something bonded to it, or what. Very strange. And last but not least, I wanted to show you something that's kind of funny. I was digging among where I think maybe a blacksmith shop was, because there's all kinds of cut wrought iron all over the place. But I found that. And it's very small. Thought at first, well, maybe a blacksmith was making toy tomahawks. I mean, that's what it looks like. A couple days later, found that. A little bigger. Same thing. I started getting disappointed. About 5 minutes later, I found that. And as you can see, it's got threads on it on this end. So I sent a picture of that to my wife's grandpa, who's in his 90s, and he was a farmer all his life. And just right off the bat, he knew that was out of a Case combine, pull-type combine from the 30s. So I was a little disappointed, but anyway. Sure looked like a little tiny tomahawk to me. So that's all I found so far that is worth showing. Thanks for watching, and I will get back to you with some more as soon as I can.